Hi, Downey Avenue Christian Church friends and family. I'm Anna, and I'm sharing our Community Connections moment together today, walking us through the process of sewing face masks. So, ta-da! I have been working at sewing face masks through the COVID-19 project. I'm not really a talented sewer at all. I'm not. I have just been invited into the process of making masks by a friend who's a nurse midwife here in Indianapolis and really needed them, and then have been slowly and steadily continuing to sew for friends and community members and people who needed them over these past few weeks. So I have been surprised and blessed at the way community has felt like a supporting agent through this whole process. I've had people helping me in so many different ways by donating supplies, by running errands for me, helping me find what I need, even loaning me a sewing machine when mine broke. And there's just so many forms of support. Early on, when it became clear that supplies of masks were really unavailable, we realized that supplies for sewing the masks were quickly soon going to be unavailable also. And elastic was one of the first things that became really hard to find. So I have a friend whose grandmother is actually up in Robin Run, and she organized an elastic drive for me, and a lot of grandmothers with sewing kits, I guess, up at Robin Run went through their sewing kits trying to find a little bit of elastic. Anything that they had in their supplies was good, and drove it all down to my friend who popped it on to me. And I have to read you this note because it's so cool. There were a couple of really sweet notes that came from these women and their sewing kits. Some of the elastic was a little vintage, but here you go. This is just a really cool donated note here. Some of this elastic is really old. I hope it still works. Thank you for doing this important work. If my old pants fall down because I don't have any elastic to fix them, it will be all your fault. From a friend / neighbor of Francis, who was organizing that elastic drive. So from surprising places, the things that I needed to keep sewing masks have just shown up. And so I keep on being able to provide masks for people who need them. And yeah, I started with a smaller version. This is the kind of mask that I'm sewing, by the way. So it's got that little ridge over the nose right here, and it hooks behind your ears like so, and comes tucking down under the chin just a little. This is the pattern size that I'm going to post to the Downey website so that you, if you wanted to follow along, could sew your own masks as well. And if you've been just a little, like I was at the start, a little unclear about how to get started, having someone show you is super helpful. So this is a mask pattern that has pleats down the side and has a bridge that follows the curve of your face, like right underneath the cheekbone area here, and has a little pocket up top for placing some wire so that you can really shape it to the frame of your nose. And it also has a lining and an outside, just like that, with space in between for a pocket. And in this pocket is the filter fabric that I've been cutting and sewing from furnace filters, essentially. Other kind of things that you could use in there would be vacuum cleaner bags, HEPA vacuum cleaner bags, or some people have been even using just a thicker kind of fabric or a thicker kind of polyester fabric on the inside. The mask itself is washable, and that's the great thing about these, is that if you have one and you're out and about, it's totally reusable, and it's designed to be reusable. All the seams kind of tuck into each other, so there's nothing that really frays, and you just wash it in really hot water. And then, yeah, it's good to go for the next one. This is the first time that the first kind of pattern that I started with, that slightly smaller to my face. This is the second pattern that I'm going to show you today because I feel like it works a little well. These are the masks that I've been sewing that have made a few adjustments along the way. I've included ties at the back. So for me, I just slip it over my head, and the ties are already pre-tied to shape to the back of my head. It also has the elastic loops, so I can slip it up and put it to the back of my ears and also tie toward the back of my head. And for when I'm in situations where I'm wearing the mask a little longer, it feels like having the ties as well as the elastic is a little more useful. And I have better wire that I've just gotten that's a flat kind of wire, and it fits a little better over the bridge of my nose rather than the thinner wire that I was using earlier. And a big difference between these kinds of masks is it's a little bit bigger. So it fits a little more snugly underneath my chin. And for me, when I had a less bulky mask, I found that I was just touching my face a little to make adjustments, and I realized that wearing the mask was actually making me touch my face even more, which wasn't great. So even though this is a little, I don't know, it's just bulkier and bigger, it has the ability to be more comfortable over a longer period of time. So the essential shape of the mask is still the same, so we can just walk through the process and feel like you could sew one of the bigger ones or one of the slightly smaller ones and still be good. I've also been making children's masks, and I don't have one of those on hand, but it's basically a similar sort of shape, only smaller, and the pleats are just a little bit closer together so that there is still that snug fit to the side of your jawline and the side of your face. So we can kind of get started. The pattern starts as just a printout that I'll have on the Downey Avenue Christian Church website, but it kind of looks like this when you print it out from the printer, and you're just cutting out piece A and piece B. And so I've done a number of these, and I have piece A and piece B right here already cut out. So this is the slightly larger size, like I said, that I was using, which is very similar to the original. It's just got about a centimeter more all the way around it. That's all. So I'll start with some fabric. It has a little pattern to it. And this is just a dark blue fabric, which I thought would be easy to see as I'm sewing. You fold the fabric so that the pattern side is on the inside. And so what we're going to do is work with the outside of the fabric, which you can see has the pattern folded in on itself. So I'm gonna lay that down here. Hey, Kahli, will you help me? Thanks. Laying the pattern down on the fabric. Thank you. Like so. You just go ahead and pin the fabric down. And after a while, I was finding that the paper starts to get holes in it. I've had to print several pattern shapes out over the weeks that I've been sewing. And I've been trying to set the pattern pieces down to the fabric in a way that aligns with the grain of the fabric and also makes best use of the fabric so that there's not too many, large gaps. And what I didn't remember at first was that sometimes if the pattern has specific shapes, you might want to pay attention to how that directs the placement of the pattern on the fabric, because I sewed a few masks that had upside down trees, and I just let that be okay because, we're in times of crisis. So if you got a mask with upside down trees, let that be okay. I figured no one was really that worried. So you cut around, cutting close to the fabric, cutting close to the piece of paper on the fabric. And I'm just gonna set that aside because I've already done it. Like Julia Child's in the kitchen. Look, I pre-prepared these earlier. And this is what that looks like when you've cut them out. So you have two layers of fabric. Of course, they're folded in on each other with the beautiful side in and the opposite side out. So I'm gonna shift a few things around and pull the sewing machine closer. I'm not sure what you'll be able to see, but we'll get it started here. First things first is you take the two pieces of fabric, and this outside curved edge right here is where we start. I've loaded up the machine with a light colored thread, so hopefully it's a little easier to see. And we'll just start with the curved side first, like so. Backwards and forwards. Starting, you reverse just a little bit, so the action of reversing the stitch makes it so that this stitch doesn't unravel as you go. Same at the end, that backwards and forwards stitching there helps it so that it doesn't unravel, and that seam has just come the outside curve. Thanks, Kahli. I'm doing the second piece now. And just snipping nice and close. I've been trying to snip the threads as I go, because I feel really aware that if you have little snippy bits of thread on your face, that'll be more likely to make you touch your face. We don't want that. So anything that gets cut off, I'm trying to do as part of the process and not just all at once at the end. So now you have two shapes where the curve is sewn together. You unfold them just like that. And what I'm gonna do is take this side. You have two pieces, one that has slightly longer wings to the side and one that has slightly shorter wings to the side. I'm taking the one that has slightly shorter wings to the side first, and then we'll fold it with the beautiful side fabric out. Just kind of fold a little seam down the edge on both of those short, flat sides. So again, we'll just want to sewing machine that. There's a little bit of rain going on in the background, so that was thunder. Again on the other side. So now that short side has just two seams creating flat edges with no exposed hem on that side and on that side. And at this point, the two pieces of fabric get joined together. This is usually when I turn on my iron, so I'm gonna ask Kahli to move that and then turn the iron onto the cotton setting. And what I'm doing here is matching the two curved seams together right here and putting what appears to be the bridge of the nose together. The pretty side of the fabric goes in toward each other, and just matching that seam at the top of the bridge of the nose, follow along the curve part so they meet and match all the way down, and naturally that longer flap of fabric on the first piece is just gonna hang out and be okay. We're gonna start the seam right here. Again with the back and forwards every single time so that there's no chance for the stitches to come unraveled. And then follow along that curved seam, just directing the fabric under the sewing machine needle. And I'll lift that up so it just tucks under. Great. And then following along the bottom or the flatter side, same kind of thing. Just meet and match the places where the two curved seams go together like that. And then help the two fabric pieces to meet all the way along. So that's the natural place to start then. Oops. There we go. So now those two pieces of fabric are sewn together, facing each other. and we'll just turn it inside out. So take 2 pieces of fabric, turning it inside out. The outside and the inside are now joined together, forming the tunnel where that pocket for the filter fabric goes, just naturally between the 2 pieces of fabric. So I'm just kind of helping this turn inside out all the way toward the seam edges. And then that's what it looks like, the curved part here, just forming that natural curve around the face. And then you'll see that the overhanging pieces of fabric are naturally starting to roll in toward one another, following the line of the curve that we sewed here and the flat part that we sewed here. And so that's where I take the iron, and what I'm going to do is just iron the 4 quadrants. It's sort of divided into 4 quadrants, like 1, 2, and then along the bottom 3 and 4. And I'm going to iron those 4 quadrants, just pressing out the seam as much as I can, and then making a fold along the flap that follows the natural path of the seam all the way to the end. And then I'll show you that I tuck it over at the very end, just like that. So Kahli will follow along real quick here. And let's see, let's put that out of the way. So, because I've been using my dining table as my work table, I have a little thing that I made to protect my dining table. It's like a little mini version of an ironing board, I guess, and I can just iron straight onto the dining room table. Your mileage may vary. I have an old IKEA table that, you know, if it gets marked up a little bit, it's okay. Of course, you wouldn't do this. You'd take it to your ironing board if you had a really lovely dining room table that you didn't want to iron directly on. So maybe that follows along the category. Don't try this at home, boys and girls. So those are the 2 quadrants on one side. Following along the seam at the bottom here, you see how it just kind of follows. Kahli, can you get an aerial view maybe? Yeah. Following along right here, it just extends the natural seam of what we've already sewn, and same along the curve here. Just take it and just keep following the natural curve of that seam down, letting it fold over on itself so that you can iron it. Flattening the seam and then tucking over at the end there. So as we'll sew it down in a little minute there, and then I turn the iron off here and I use the warmth of the iron to finish off the next seam. The next part, after we've made this stitch that goes all the way around the edge, French seaming down on the inside here, and then just tucking over the edges of these flaps at either side. That'll flatten everything down. And then the next step will be to create the little tunnel for the elastic on the side ear pieces, folding it down right there. And I'll show you that when we come to it. But that's where we're headed. So I'm going to sew all the way around the edge of this mask now, taking it from one ear flap corner all the way around the circumference of the mask itself. So start here. Anytime that I get to a place where I turn a corner, I let the needle be in the fabric and then just lift the foot and turn the corner like that, so I can make that fabric stay in place. And that sometimes gets caught, so I'll just lift it. So that's it. That's the circumference all the way around the edge of the mask. So you can see now that the seams are flat and that all those exposed raw edges are tucked in. So what I'm going to do right now is fold over one side and then the other, making those tunnels for the ear elastic to sit. So if I had fabric that's a little looser or softer, I might just iron down, but I'm just going to do like a little finger press like that and then take it to the sewing machine needle. So that's one side. And then here's the other side. And just like so. Oops. All right. So now you've got the essential shape of the mask like that. And then the last little thing, a couple things to do. I have elastic that I have pre-cut here, but this is about 9 inches of the skinny kind of elastic. And fun fact, I ordered elastic from Amazon right when I realized that people were gonna start running out of elastic. And this took like 6 weeks to get here. This is what I thought would be a giant roll of elastic, and it came to me in this tiny little package. It's 120 yards of this beading cord. But this is soft and stretchy, and I had a couple different versions of the size, but landed on that about 9 inches. You roughly take the shape of the tunnel that the elastic goes in, and then just drop the elastic down and in there. Both sides. This is one of those things where it'll take a hot minute. If I feel like there's a few seams in there where it might get caught, I might take a safety pin or something to just help get that through the tunnel. And then at the end, you just tie a little knot. So what I had done on the first few versions of masks I was making, I don't even know where I put that. Anyway, I had the elastic behind the ear kind of permanently tied. Thanks, Cal. So I sewed the knot back under, and I've stopped doing that. I've left it now so that the knot is actually not sewn into the mask, but the knot stays on the outside here so that you can make those adjustments. When you wear the mask, you might have like a longer jawline and need just a little more room. You might want the mask pressing a little closer to the side of your head, and so you could actually readjust that, not bringing it a little closer to the side of your face. So let's see. It takes just a little minute, I guess. Okay, so that's that side there too. So taking the knot right here at the very end, I tie it firm enough so it stays while I'm sewing, but not so firm that you couldn't get it out. Let's just see little fingernails there. So those are the long, that's the long side, the curved side, and the short side here with the elastic in it. What I'm gonna do right now is show you how I sew just a couple of little pleats into the side of the mask here, and that makes it so that there's less gapping at the side of your face. So I tuck a little pleat in toward the jawline, so it's about 2/3 of the way down. Making that shape, I set the fabric underneath the foot, and then actually I'm gonna show you the right way to do this because this happened just a few times to me. I'm gonna pull the fabric away from that seam that I'm sewing so that I don't get that caught and stitch it closed accidentally. It wouldn't be the end of the world, but then one side of the mask just becomes permanently closed, and that's, you know, that's kind of a bummer when you need to remove the filter from inside the mask. So we're just sewing a rectangle here, sewing down over the pleat itself, coming to the bottom, turn the corner, sew that down, turn the corner one more time. All right, so I'm gonna just lift the needle out of there. There we go. Sewing right over the pleat there, heading toward the top. And finishing that there. Excellent. So you can see that the seam comes along there, and more than once I accidentally sewed a mask closed on one side when I realized that that fabric sort of gets in the way sometimes. We'll do the same thing to the other side, pinning that fabric pocket out of the way, placing that pleat toward the bottom, about 2/3 of the way. It's just a tiny little shape in the fabric, and then sewing it closed right here. That pleat unfolded itself just a little, so we'll tuck it back in. Pleat wants to undo, so we'll just slip, there we go, slip it under. All right. So there we have it. So that's the basic shape of the mask right there. I'm going to show you how I add the little pocket at the bridge of the nose, because that is where the wire goes. I have markings on my sewing machine that I just line this seam up, and that's where I estimate that I start sewing the little pocket. All it is just a little L shape. I start going back and forwards for about 7 stitches at the top, turn it, and then I'm providing about 1.5 centimeters worth of tunnel pocket for the piece of wire to go. Using that same sensation of finishing off the seams back and forward. So you can see right here that that extra allowance of seam right there places where the wire goes. And I was using beading wire, and now I have these short flat nose pieces, and the wire, all it does is just slip in between the fabric pocket right there and up on through. Sometimes it takes just a little working to get past the seam in the middle there, so just giving it what it needs. It lands right there, and then that's the capacity of the nose bridge right there. And then you fold it and shape it, and that's a real aid in helping to keep the mask close to your nose. And early on, I heard that some people were choosing to sanitize their masks by microwaving them, so it felt really important to be able to not sew the pocket closed, but to be able to sew it so that that mask is completely microwavable with no wire inside of it. Okay, so that's the end of the basic fabric mask like that. Hooks over the nose like so. And the last little part of it is just sewing the fabric ties on. This is just this additional piece that, like I said, I've been starting to add to some of these masks so that you can make them a little more long-term. This is t-shirt fabric, essentially. I've been cutting up t-shirts and basically sewing along that long side of the bottom so that when you cut the right length, the fabric just rolls up on itself. These are already pre-cut, and I've been doing one for each corner of the mask. And basically, I don't think I'm going to show you that because the video is getting long. But basically, you're just attaching the 4 pieces of fabric with a simple running back and forth stitch, and then letting the person tie it at the end. And that makes like a little more drape and a little more bulk to the mask, but over the long term, it's a little more comfortable. So that's it for face masks. And I am, gonna turn it over to Kahli here to be able to show and tell maybe a little bit about what to do if you don't have a sewing machine and you have a bandana and you might have hair ties. So just to be able to make it a little more accessible, she looked up how to be able to make a simple bandana mask with hair ties. Take it away, Kahli.
Hello. So,
Oh dear.
2 hair ties, bandana, and
Sorry.
so just fold it, and then fold it, and then fold it. Have it so it's roughly even, and so that the line is on the inside. Hair tie, hair tie, and then take this, fold it so that the hair tie is there. You just fold it over and there should be a little opening. Other side, fold it in to that little opening, and then hair tie, hair tie. Done.
Super simple. I'm realizing that I didn't go over any of the filter options, but real quick here, furnace filter, HEPA filters are the best. We've been ripping off the pieces of cardboard, and then of course you rip off whatever wire adjustment creates that accordion fold, and it comes together not so neatly and tidily because there's just a little left of the wire right here on the fabric, not the wire, but where the wire was glued down. We're gonna let that be okay. We cut it out to the shape of the inner side of the mask, that inside, and you slip it in between those 2 pieces of fabric. So that's it. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, of course, let me know. I'd be really happy to walk through sewing a mask via FaceTime. And if you're in need of a mask, of course, reach out, as people have been, and I'd be more than happy to get that taken care of with you so that we can all stay safe, stay healthy, stay well as possible, and looking forward to seeing each other in real time just as soon as we can safely do that. Thank you. Bye.